Save big with Kroger's 12 Merry Days of Deals. From December 4th through the 15th, you can clip a hot new deal each day on our app or website. And if you're a Boost member, you can save even more. So don't miss out and be sure to check our app or website every day from December 4th through the 15th to clip each day's hot new deal. It's 12 Merry Days of Deals, a holly jolly way to save for the holidays at Kroger.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Add excitement to your holidays with Ohio Lottery Holiday Scratch-Offs, including $1 holiday cash and $5 holiday lucky times 10, or holiday bonus millions with a 200 times multiplier and a $2 million top prize. Plus, enjoy second chance drawings where you can win 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times the price of your ticket. Scratch-Offs make the perfect gift, and best of all, there's no wrapping required. Lottery players are subject to Ohio laws and commission regulations. Play responsibly.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AEye Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AEye Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AEye Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AEye Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
I'm just trying my very best to give Guy a bit of extra work, mate, because usually we make him breeze through these pods.
Well, that's exactly it. Such is the level of professionalism that we display that he basically has no work to do at all. Karl Matchett, Liverpool 3, Newcastle 3 last night. Your thoughts?
Where to begin would probably be my thoughts. Probably as bad as we've played first half in terms of technical level, let's say. I think to an extent, obviously, some of it was to be expected with the changes in defence and people coming into the team who haven't necessarily played quite so many minutes. Way too many, obviously, individual errors defensively, again, mostly, but not restricted to them. Lots of marginalised people, not real cohesion in our game, and so on and so forth. We really did need physicality to come to the fore, I think, last night in large parts of those games. But as we saw it sometimes as well, when things did click in just brief periods, we were levels and levels above Newcastle. Just one of them games where you do a bit of a madness at one end and a bit of madness happens at your end as well. I don't think a 3-3 draw at Newcastle is absolutely terrible by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, we'd have preferred to win, and given the way that we came back into the game, probably, I think if we'd have won the game 3-2, people would say we deserved to win, but actually the number of errors that we made probably means a draw was right.
Yeah, I mean, all three goals that they scored were our own fault, really. The Isak one is obviously an unbelievable hit, but we give the ball away to them so cheaply when we have possession, when we really do need to slow the game a little bit and take the sting out of their attacks. Molly, shut up. And we give the ball to them really cheaply. And then it's a positional error from Joe Gomez that gives Isak a seal to run into. And as he runs into that, Van Dijk is forced to turn, so Isak goes back the other way and gets his shot off. Then the second goal, there's no pressure at all on the ball after we again cough it up needlessly. And there's no awareness from Joe Gomez that Isak has come back onside. So after Bruno Guimaraes can take 15 minutes or so standing there waiting for Isak, he plays a simple ball into him. There's no pressure on Isak. And the ball is slid through for Gordon. Gomez does really well then to get back. But Quansah doesn't cover the cutback from Gordon back onto his right foot. And then the third goal, I mean, Kelleher, it's a disaster from him. it's a disaster from Kelleher. But I'd like to see a lot more communication in our back line. And I really would have liked to have seen Trent stay with Fabian Schär and not just let him wander to the ball with no pressure on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody just stopped, didn't they? I think the defence probably expected that to be a claim. Queeve obviously probably expected there to be nothing at all happening behind him. And I think probably the angle of the ball looked like it was going out quicker than it actually would have done in the end. It kind of curved right at the end as though either curl or wind pick up or whatever it was. But, it's the last second. Just make sure. Just make sure. Simple as that. If you're going with the runner, make sure. If you're heading the ball out, make sure. If you're catching it, make sure. Everybody stopped. That's no use whatsoever. We're never going to win every single game through to the end of the season. So whenever the draw or drop points happens was going to be irritating in one way or another. I don't know whether it's more or less takeable because it was such a ridiculous game and backwards and forwards, and we did really well to get back into it. But yeah, it's certainly drop points of our own making either way.
Yeah, look, I think at 1-0 down, at 2-1 down, and at 2-2, we probably all would have taken the point and just gotten out of there. But when you're 3-2 up and it's the 90th minute, you don't like if they get it, if they score a worldie, fair enough. If they open you up through brilliant play, fair enough. But don't gift them a chance. Like, I assume Kelleher's logic was, I'll let that go out of play and then I'll milk the clock on the kick out. And if I have to take a yellow card, I'll take a yellow card. But catch the ball, wrap it in your arms, lie on the floor, let everybody clear out of your box, and then drop the ball to your feet and milk the clock that way. Don't take any risks. You just can't take risks. We had a lot of poor performances last night. I thought Gomez had a horror show. I thought Gravenberch was abysmal. And I thought Darwin Núñez was absolutely atrocious. But I'm not prepared to blame him for the Cody Gakpo header across the goal. Cody has to score that. The left-footed assault on the corner flag now, we can blame Darwin for missing that chance. But everything about his performance was poor. And when we get to the team selection for this weekend, I think it will be reflected in that. This weekend, we're facing Everton. And last night's draw will be a better result in context if we win on Saturday and we take 4 points from these two difficult aways. This will be the last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. Everton obviously moving for next season to Bramley-Moore Dock. So this is a big one. Everton last night scored 4 to beat Wolves. 2 own goals, but they put 4 in the back of the net regardless. First time all season they've scored more than 2, and they'd only managed 2 twice. Everton's season so far has seen them get hammered by Brighton, hammered by Spurs, lose at home to Bournemouth, having been 2-0 up on the 87th minute, lose away to Villa, having been 2-0 up there too, draw at home to Leicester, beat Crystal Palace, draw at home to Newcastle, beat Ipswich away, draw at home to Fulham, lose away to Southampton, draw at West Ham, draw at home to Brentford, get absolutely smacked by Manchester United, and then smack the shit out of Wolves. That is their season so far. This is a basket case of a club, Karl.
Yeah, a very odd season yet again, and a very odd way of doing things at times. I mean, last night obviously was highlights only in terms of watching what Everton did, but it certainly looked like they were a little bit more expansive and on the front foot at times. In some regards, I guess that's to be expected, given Wolves are one of the very few teams below them, but it does still mean that they've only beaten teams below them, and there are not many of them this year. But then Wolves have a really direct and fast and skillful attack as well, so it almost feels like it looks as though Everton would have sat back a little bit more in that kind of an encounter, but they really needed the win. Deitch definitely needed the win. There's not long left on his contract, and at the minute it seems sort of hit and miss whether he'll even get to see it out. So I think in terms of him being there, should we say, for the January transfer window, he needed a couple of decent results, and obviously the new group, if they do take over before Christmas, will want to see a bit of an upturn before they make any initial decisions, let's say.
Yeah, they will. And I have a working theory that because I've just watched them at Roma and how they've operated, they like to make popular appointments. So I have a theory that they might bin Dyche and bring back David Moyes. Not immediately, but, over the course of a couple of bad results, I think they'll just immediately go to Dyche and say, no, on you go, here's your contract paid up, and have Moyes waiting in the wings. Because Everton, there's nothing to be excited about with Everton. Like, not only are they bad, but they play bad football. And I think Moyes would at least give them a lift. He's not going to make the football a whole lot better, but he should make the team a little bit better, and he will give the crowd a boost. And ultimately, they want to leave Goodison and go into the new stadium on a high. They want to go in as a Premier League team, and I think they will. I think they'll be fine this season ultimately, because you've got a bottom 5 below them of a Leicester team that look like they could easily go down, even with a good win during the week. Palace, I think, are the best team in the bottom 6, including Everton, but they've been really odd this season so far. Ipswich, I think, have the most potential of the bottom 3, but they also have maybe the second lowest floor after Southampton. Southampton look doomed. They look dead and buried. 9 goals conceded this year through their own errors already. The Premier League record for an entire season is 10. They've got 9 through 14 games. And they don't score any goals either.
I know I'm not talking Southampton, but last night was just stupid, right? Like beyond stupid. This is now into the land of you are being way too egotistical and you need to get out your own asses.
Yeah. You're at home against a team in the top 3. Against Liverpool, you gifted them a goal. You're now at home against another team in the top 3. You've just put in really hard-working performances against against Liverpool and Brighton, which, were a departure from the nonsense that we had been seeing, even with the goal gifted to Liverpool. And you come out and you play like that. And it's not just the lineup was baffling to me as well. What is that midfield 3? Aribo, who's a 10, Fernandes, who's a 10, and Ryan Fraser, who's a winger. And that's your midfield 3 that you expect to be taken seriously with in the Premier League. They get the brainless moment from Lumley, trying to play. There's a reason you're the 4th choice goalkeeper. You're not capable of doing that. And you don't care if the manager tells you to do it. Don't do it. Pump it long. Get rid of it. Don't play your own players into trouble. And then the Jack Stevens red card is just the dumbest thing you're going to see all season. So they're, as far as I'm concerned, they're gone. So it is 2 positions really left to go down. Everton are in the group, but I do think they're on the outside of it. I don't think they'll get subbed in. But they could use some joy, and maybe Moyes would do that for them. You mentioned transfers. Obviously, in the summer, they had to sell Onana. That was the big sale. They sold Ben Godfrey, and then they did a cash for gold type deal where they sold Lewis Dobbin to Aston Villa for 10 million and got Irabunam back for a similar price, and it allows them both to fiddle their accounts. I do think they won that deal ultimately because Irabunam, for now anyway, is the better, more Premier League ready player. They also signed Iliman Ndiaye for 15 million. I think he's a very good player, and I think he's been a good addition for them. And they brought in Jake O'Brien from Lyon. I'm not fully sure as to why, because he's barely kicked a ball so far, but I do like him. He grew on me a lot last season. That was basically their business, other than signing your favorite goalkeeper of all time, Asmir Begovic. They loaned in Jack Harrison again, Jesper Lindstrom, who hasn't really made an impact of yet. Oral Mangala, though, is playing well. And they also loaned an injured Armando Broja for reasons I don't understand, because they already had 3 6'2" and above target men strikers, so I don't really understand why they needed a 4th.
This episode is brought to you by Disney Plus. Game on, because ESPN Plus content is available on Disney Plus. You can watch your favorites from Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus together like never before. With ESPN Plus, unwrap a full day of NBA action on Christmas Day. Tip off the festivities with the Spurs and Knicks, followed by the Mavs and Timberwolves. Then a clash between the Lakers and Warriors, followed by the 76ers and Celtics. And finally, the Nuggets face off against the Suns, all streaming December 25th. Then with Hulu, watch the terrifying sci-fi thriller Alien Romulus, where a group of young space colonizers come face to face with the ultimate horror. And on Disney Plus, follow the adventures of 4 kids across the galaxy as they meet unlikely allies and enemies in Star Wars Skeleton Crew, starring Jude Law. All of these and more now streaming and available with a bundle subscription. Visit DisneyPlus.com for details. Terms apply.
They left themselves short in a few areas, and I think we've seen that come to fruition this year, Karl. If you look at the table, not just the points, but only 14 goals scored this year, 1 a game, and that includes the 4 from last night, and 21 conceded, which isn't dreadful, but it's still not good. And this is a Sean Dyche team built on defence. They left themselves short, I think, at fullback, and maybe like a poacher type up front would have been a big help.
Yeah, any kind of not big, massive stationary forward would have been a help, really, wouldn't it? And I mean, it would have been nice to have in the squad. Whether it would actually have helped them or not, I'm not really sure, because they've had a couple of seasons where they've had like not just running down the wingers and not played them, or attacking midfielders who play in the spaces and don't really play them. So maybe they wouldn't have played that kind of forward either. But what they do have is a large number of people who are vying for one spot. And whether that is the one spot from minutes 0 to 60 or 61 to 90, it's still just the one spot. So maybe if Chermiti comes back and is sort of looking like a promising young forward, maybe he'll get more game time. Maybe Broja, like you say, will be a footballer again. We don't really know at this stage. So it's a lot of ifs, buts and maybes, which is kind of par for the course for Everton. We can probably pick out the not even tactical nuances, but just team nuances, I think. Selection choices, which are like progressive or interesting or something a little bit out of the ordinary on one hand from like the last 3-4 years. We've spoken about McNeil before, obviously, in his role, which has changed somewhat this season. And that's been a big success. But the absolute reluctance to do anything else of the sort, or to make themselves any kind of a changed progressive side, or anything at all to make them better at what they are supposed to be good at already, it staggers me, to be perfectly honest. They are sideways and very slightly downwards if you were plotting what they are and what they've been under Dyche. And I know that he's capped them up, and that was a really good start, but that's supposed to be a platform for what comes next, not just what you do every single time.
100%. 100%. Little pop quiz for you. From the beginning of last season until now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Beto, Armando Broja, and Yusuf Chermiti have played a combined 130 games in all competitions. How many goals do you think they've scored between the 4 of them in that time? Now, obviously, these weren't all for Everton. Calvert-Lewin, Beto, and Chermiti was. Broja has 1 for Everton and 8 for Fulham last season. But how many goals do you think they got between them?
All competitions.
All competitions.
Should we go 19?
Nope.
Is that too high?
Too high.
16.
16 is exactly correct. Yusuf Chermiti has no goals in 20 appearances. Armando Broja has no goals in 9 appearances. Beto has 6 goals in 48 appearances. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin has 10 goals in 53 appearances. So not exactly lighting it up between them. But there are good players in this team. And there are creative players in this team. And the 2 I'd like to have a chat about, one is a summer signing, and one is a player who has been Deitched more maybe than anybody else, but still manages to come out looking like a really good player. So Iliman Ndiaye, Karl.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Makes his name at Sheffield United, has an outstanding season in a couple of outstanding seasons in the Championship for them, helps them get promoted. And then before they play in the Premier League, he leaves and goes to Marseille because his contract was running down and he didn't seem keen on staying. His time there was disappointing. And Everton managed to snap him up for 15 million. Marseille took about a 5 million hit on the deal. Now, from a goal-scoring point of view, he only has 3 in 16 games this season. But I don't think that really shows the impact that he has when he plays. Because I watch him and I think you've got really good movement. You link play really well. Your passing is good. Your dribbling, I think, is very good. He doesn't have any assists, though, which is weird to me. Because I do think when I watch him play, for the most part, he impresses me. What do you make of Iliman Ndiaye, and what have you made of him for Everton so far in particular?
I'm not wildly keen on the use that they have for him in terms of like where they are using him. I think if he was a 9 or even a second forward, in a, like we say, a bit of a changed up system perhaps, or I do think that you get more out of him because I think he's really good at channel running. He's obviously quick and strong when he's in possession. They don't really use him as that though. He's like a wide outlet quite often. A couple of times you'll get him through the middle later on in games or whatever, but it's not. I wouldn't say that Deitch has him there in the team with the primary thought being you're going to be an additional goal getter for us. I just don't think that that's how he's really keen on him being in the team, basically. So it's fine to have him in the team and playing left wing or whatever because you've moved Dwight McNeil into the middle, so you've got 2 of them in there who are capable of moving the ball and progressing through the lines and stuff. But again, if you're using Ndiaye from that role, if you're not going to play in a team which has your wide forwards doing, let's say the Diaz or the Rashford or the Son, that kind of being a genuine goal threat, your main goal threat, then you are reducing them to one of 2 things. One is as an outlet, and then you play inside from like 40 yards higher upfield if you're counter-attacking, or secondly, you're getting them to cross the ball an awful lot. That's your 2 avenues for using your wide attackers if they're not inside forwards running at goal and taking loads and loads of shots themselves. Now, we know he's not taking loads and loads of shots himself because he doesn't score a lot of goals and he averages like less than 1.5 shots per game. That's takes away all that kind of expectation on him, let's say. So are you getting good stuff from him on the other side? Well, they are, because in terms of his dribbles, he's like among the highest in the league for his position, for his role. Over 3 successful dribbles every 90. That's pretty good. Defensively, he's pretty good. So that shows that, he's in the Deitch team and he's working hard and he's doing a job for the team and all the rest of it. His recoveries and interceptions and general duels won is pretty good on a per 90 basis as well. But that's not attacking wise, is it? So really you're just down to him carrying the ball and crossing the ball. And he is pretty good with his crossing, but crossing is generally an inefficient way of scoring unless you have the best in the world on both ends of those crosses. So when it's De Bruyne in his peak crossing for Haaland or Aguero or whatever, that's really, really good. When it's, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who has had one good season of goal scoring in his entire career, you're not going to be as impressive and you're not going to get the assists, and that's fine. But if you look at the actual chances created, so it doesn't really matter if your teammates on the end of the deliveries are good or not, Ndiaye is like 7th in Everton's squad. That's not great. Like, you're not getting the chances created out of him. You are using him as a ball carrier, someone to break lines maybe, and sort of second balls and keep pressure and all the rest of it. So they're just not using him as a creative forward, and they're not letting him play as a shooting forward either.
No, and yet, everything you said is true, and yet, with 3 goals, he is their second top scorer this season.
Yep.
Which tells you everything you need to know about the problems they're having.
Quality is going to shine even if you try to restrict it. Quality will have its moments, and he is, I would say, from a technical perspective, and like allying that to the physical traits that player has, I would say he is their second best attacker. Full stop. So you are going to get good things out of him just by virtue of him being good.
Just out of curiosity, do you have the list of their creators there in front of you?
I do. It's very, very set piece heavy, I can tell you.
So run me from 6 to 2.
Okay. So Ndiaye is actually level 6th with Drusla Ganagay and Iliman Ndiaye both on 9 chances created this season.
So that's your defensive ball winning midfielder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it's also 9, but better on a per 90 basis because he's played less, is Jack Harrison.
Fair. It says spamming crosses and set pieces.
Yeah. Jesper Lindstrom with 10.
Interesting.
Your formidable number 10, Abdoulaye Doucouré, defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder. He has 13.
Okay.
And then fullback come Olympic diver stroke set piece occasionalist is Ashley Young on 16 in second place.
Right. So yeah, that's again. So with him and with Harrison, it's absolutely crosses and corners and free kicks like that. It's everything is from wide areas humped into the box. With Doucouré, knockdowns and turnover. So winning the ball back and getting a quick transition chance is Gay and Doucouré. So
this will also count from those two in particular in just short progressive passes where Everton have a long shot, which is largely pointless.
So number 2, you said, is Ashley Young with 16.
16.
How big of a so there's a 7 chance gap between 2 and Ndiaye in 7th. How big is the gap between 2 and 1? What number does number 1 have?
Second and third combined is still less than first.
That's incredible. So number 1 is obviously Dwight McNeil.
It is, with 33 chances created.
How would that rank through the Premier League? Just out of curiosity, or do you have access to that?
I don't, but I can have a quick little look, shall we? Should we pick a random team so that we're not being...
Let's just pick us. Can you compare them to our players?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, chances created. Have a guess. Who's top for us?
Mo.
Yeah, Mo, 26. He doesn't take set pieces, remember? So he's not creating as a result of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would imagine that for McNeil, the split is probably 2/3 of set pieces and 1/3 is open play, or half and half, maybe at around there. But a lot of McNeil's chances will again be from crosses. But I have to say, like, I every time I watch them play, even when they're dreadful, the one player that always stands out to me on the ball, no matter what, is Dwight McNeil. Whether it's his ability to pick the ball up and carry it, and he never looks like he's moving very fast, and yet he slaloms past players and always seems to get where he wants to go. His passing is very good. He sees a pass really well, and he's got great delivery. His crossing is outstanding. His set pieces are excellent, and we saw yesterday he created absolute chaos in the Wolves penalty box with his delivery. Now, I'm not saying he'd be in my team of the season so far, but if I was looking at a team of the season so far, I would at least be giving consideration to Dwight McNeil. And considering the dross that he's surrounded by and where they are in the league, like, I do think that speaks to how well he's playing in a team that, frankly, he's too good to be part of at this point. Like, Dwight McNeil deserves to be playing for not necessarily a top 4 club, but I would say like a European club. So whether that's one of the big 8 or whatever, I think he deserves to be playing at that level. I think he's that good.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if he was at, should we say, the teams who right at this minute are, between 6th and 11th, where they're all like teams trying to get there or have had the odd season in Europe or whatever. So, Brighton, Forest, Villa, Tottenham, Brentford, Newcastle, Man United. Like, I don't think he'd be outrageously outdated at any of those teams. Like, but obviously there's, the odd position where they already have someone of quality in his exact role. But generally speaking, I don't think he's not good enough to play for any of those sides.
No, definitely not. I think if you put him into the Villa team over John McGinn, I think he improves them. I think he gives them more from set pieces, and maybe then they can finally commit to Ian Maatsen at left back and not have Lucas Digne in the team, who seems to only be in for set pieces. His passing is as good if not better than McGinn's. His work rate matches McGinn's. He's a better ball carrier than McGinn. He's a much better crosser than John McGinn. And like, he gets you some goals as well. What's he got this season? 4 in all competitions. He's their top scorer. He's got 3 goals, 3 assists in the Premier League in 1,143 minutes, which is not bad. It can obviously tick up, and I think it would tick up substantially in a team that was more attack-minded. I really like Dwight McNeil. I liked him when he was at Bolton. I often wondered if he'd come through at a club with a more progressive manager, if he'd been spotted at 16 by, say, Jurgen Klopp and Pep and Linders, would he have ended up getting moved to left back? I don't know if he's got the pace to play there, but his passing and his crossing, and you could have like an Aldi version of Trent on the left. But as a third man in midfield, as an 8, I'd love to see him play for a top club and see what he do. He's only 25 as well.
Yeah, he does feel like he's about 28, doesn't he? But, he's not. So that's what being at Sean Dyche teams year after year after year after year can do to you, I suppose. And I just quickly run down the other chances so that we can at least have a bit of context there. So Salah, as I said, 26 for Liverpool. Trent is next on 25, and then Dom on 21. So it is like obviously much more heavily grouped there. So I looked at around the teams directly above and below Everton. So that's Leicester right now. Their chances created top 3 are Buonanotte on 19, Winks on 13, and Christensen on 12. So not as high, but more grouped. West Ham are much more like Everton. So it's Jared Bowen 32, Lucas Paquetá 17, and Somerville 10.
Yeah, and Bowen takes corners and free kicks and that as well. So it does track that he would be top at West Ham. But I would have expected more from Lucas Paquetá. I would expect more chance creation from him. Like, otherwise, what do you have him in the team doing? Like that's where his skill set should be used. As we know, West Ham are another team that are a bit of a mess this year. But I just think with McNeil, like, obviously the big prize from Everton is Jared Branthwaite, and he's where I want to go next. But I also think teams should be looking at Dwight McNeil.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.